Arcane Season 2 just released on Netflix, and the first part of it is out now and has already gone #1 in 64 different countries. And yes, you read that title right. Riot Games spent over $250 million on this project, which might sound like a lot of money at first, until you realize that Arcane was probably funded by like 10 whales on League who can't stop buying the most overpriced garbage skins. Yeah, nice try, Riot. You couldn't pay me to play League, even after watching Arcane. Still addicted to Valorant though. Every part of this show is a pure masterclass of art direction. The fight scenes are super intense and have somehow even more charm from the first season, with super fun and creative action. And even the slower moments don't let you breathe because they'll sometimes just completely switch up the art style. Caitlyn's clip here was entirely hand-drawn using charcoal? What? But my absolute favorite moment so far is this part in episode 3, where they juxtapose a really intense fight with a super trippy moment. The way this music builds up to crescendo as the visuals get more chaotic and more action-packed was genuinely orgasmic. Arcane is clearly more than your average video game TV show cash grab. That $250 million budget tells me Riot was really committed to making sure that this project was as good as possible. But Ari Kendo, the budget doesn't matter. You even interviewed an animator who said that time is more important. Yes, viewer, you are technically right. While a budget can go a long way in attracting talent and whatnot, time is equally, if not more important. And oh boy, let me tell you, they've been cooking up Arcane for over 6 years, and it shows. And from what I've read online, Riot ended up splitting the $250 million 3 ways. $60 million went to the marketing of the first season, $80 million went to creating the first season in its entirety, and that means that the second season costs around $100 million to produce. That sounds like a lot at first, but consider that Spider-Verse took $90 million for 2.5 hours. Doing some rough math, we can say that every minute of the Spider-Verse animation cost around $600,000. Arcane has to make that $100 million budget last for over 6 hours of animation. That's around a 12 to 13 episode season for you anime fans, and that comes around to around $270,000 per minute of Arcane. That's almost half of Spider-Verse's budget. Now, obviously this is some very rough math. The money's also split amongst animators, musicians, scriptwriters, directors, etc., but I'm giving you this rough estimate just to put into perspective that Arcane was actually made on a very tight budget, especially when you consider the fact that every frame of the show could be a wallpaper. I mean, watching it genuinely feels like every part of this project was held to the highest standard and then somehow still managed to exceed that. Not to mention the fact that it seems like everyone at the studio was treated well. I don't think I've seen anything above 4 stars for an animation studio on Glassdoor. So how did they make it happen? Well, the studio working on Arcane is Fortiche, a French studio. Bonsoir, abonnez-vous. They have around 300 incredibly talented directors, 2D and 3D animators, illustrators, scriptwriters, and when I say talented, I don't just mean in their artistic skill and vision, although that's a given. I'm also talking about their efficiency. Zayu Ren has a great video on why Arcane is actually mostly 2D. While the characters are animated in 3D, a lot of the backgrounds are 2D. Now, why does this make a difference? Alright, so let's say you have this shot in an animated show. If you were to draw the background, it would take an illustrator a few days, but if you want to recreate this background in 3D, you would have to first model the room and then every single individual object.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But if most of the backgrounds are in 2D while the characters are 3D, how do you make it look consistent? Well, for one, the characters aren't just modeled in Blender and then thrown into the scene. A texture artist has painstakingly added paint-like brushstrokes onto the model itself. But that still isn't enough for the look and feel to be truly consistent. You need someone to bring it all together. And that is the job of a compositor. The art of compositing is to bring that final vision of the scene to life. They are like the final chef who has received all the ingredients and needs to blend them together to make a beautiful ratatouille. Also, this $250 million budget was originally meant to fund 5 seasons, but I'm actually glad they decided to keep it to 2. I might be in the minority of people here, but I am genuinely happy that they opted to condense the show and keep the pace breakneck instead of dragging out the story and filling it with cameos of characters I know nothing about or care about. Part of the appeal of Arcane is that you don't need to know anything about League to enjoy its world and its characters. I haven't even talked about the story aspects because I don't want to spoil guys, franchise, but it's been truly amazing to watch unfold over the course of this season. There's obviously a lot more people that I could praise for this adaptation, but it's clear that everyone at Fortiche and Riot really came together to make sure that Arcane was a success. I'm incredibly excited to see how the rest of the season pans out, and I'm even more excited to see what other projects Fortiche is working on. It looks like they have a movie up next. What do you think of Arcane Season 2 so far? Let me know in the comments, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.